Welcome to the 2026 Dialogue, a masterclass series by the HR Association of India. I'm Neha Jagnani, and today we are exploring a shift that is redefining how organizations discover, evaluate, and build talent in an increasingly tech driven world. Our theme for today is Skills Intelligence, the future of talent and tech hiring. To explore this transformation, we are joined by Vishal Madan. Vishal is a techno-functional leader at iMocha, working at the intersection of skills intelligence, AI, and the future of talent. With over 2 decades of experience across enterprise technology, HR tech, and entrepreneurship, he's focused on helping organizations transition from a role-based to a skills-first approach. At iMocha, Vishal leads engineering, AI, integrations, and information security initiatives to build secure, scalable platforms that enable enterprises to assess, benchmark, and develop talent with precision. His work is centered on making skills intelligence truly actionable. Embed it seamlessly into business workflows through integration with leading ecosystems such as SAP, Workday, and Oracle. Vishal, thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure having you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Always attending some or the other sessions by HRAI. And mainly today, I'm very happy because this particular topic is very close to my heart. And it also resembles what the startup that I'm part of is doing. So iMocha is into intelligence. And
Sure.
that's the reason this particular topic is very, 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 very close to my heart. So thanks for the invite again.
Sure. Thank you so much. I look forward to this exciting conversation, Vishal. So, to begin with, my first question is organizations are talking about skills first hiring, but what is the biggest gap between just the idea and what actually companies are doing?
Okay, interesting question. So I think Neha, what organizations have been doing is rebranded the hiring. So they've not redesigned it actually. So when you talk about skills intelligence and everything, it's the whole funnel that has to be taken a look at, right? Not just rebranding and calling them skills first kind of thing. So uh, at this moment of time, though they say that it's skills first, but the process still starts with the same traditional approach, that is resume screening for university and for previous job roles and everything, right? But I think skills first hiring is a philosophy that requires rewriting the entire funnel, as I said, from how you write job descriptions. It's not credential based or university based, it's competency based, to how you screen, assess, and make decisions, right? And I think the second gap is measurement. Now, do people understand that what is required from the people? So many organizations don't have a validated objective taxonomy of what good looks like for a given role. So even if I say that for a X role, I want this particular skill kind of thing, do I really understand that what is the proficiency of that particular skill required for that particular role, right? Second is that without the skills benchmark, you can't hire against it, right? You end up assessing the effort or polish rather than the actual capability of that person. Now, there are tools like what iMocha is providing. They're trying to solve this particular problem using AI-powered skills intelligence that maps skill roles, the role requirements to measurable competencies. But even then, organizations really have to commit to acting on that particular data, not just collecting it. So I think these are the biggest gaps, I would say.
Sure. Thank you so much. Beautifully articulated. So, there is rebranding more that is happening instead of
That's right.
redesigning. The gaps being focus, measurement, the proficiency of skills that one looks at, and also the skill management becomes the key. So, thank you so
Right.
much for that one. My next question, Vishal, is with AI and skills intelligence platforms evolving rapidly, do you see traditional resumes becoming irrelevant in tech hiring?
It's a bit of a tricky question, and it might impact the bread and butter of a lot of organizations that are doing resume screening and everything. But still, I'll answer that. So, in tech hiring, I would say that eventually the resume will start being relevant, right? For certain roles like leadership, where the trajectory and the experience and everything has to be more verbose rather than uh, being collected from different systems kind of thing. So for maybe for leadership hiring, that resume would be still be relevant.
Okay.
But for tech hiring, it might be completely obsolete. So what I believe is that resume would be, so resume is a kind of a self-reported backward looking document, right? It tells you where someone has been, but
Yeah.
it does not tell you the actually what you can do or what are your capabilities kind of things. So I believe eventually this particular resume would be replaced by a dynamic skill profile that will come from, let's say, the assessments, that will come from your open source project contributions, that will come from your certifications that you're doing, that might come from your GitHub repositories and the activity and everything, and any AI-based simulations like hackathons or anything that might be you might be part of, right? So again, platforms like iMocha are already building this particular skills intelligence layer that does not tell only if someone has a skill, but what is the professional level of that particular skill and in what context they have demonstrated that. So for example, if I talk about data analyst as a skill, right? Data analyst as a skill in a risk assessment business versus any other context, for example, the data analytics skill also have to differ. It cannot be that, yes, I know data analytics, but I do not know in what context I've been utilizing that and in what context I can actually apply that, right? So that is where the resumes will be replaced by this particular skill profiles that I'm talking about.
Sure, sure. So for leadership roles, yes, you
Yeah,
said certainly it is relevant, but for tech roles, no. And with the usage of assessments, certifications, AI-based simulations, I think that will make a lot of difference instead of just being resume being evaluated. So,
exactly. But I don't see it happening, I mean, overnight kind of thing. I
yeah.
still see that for the next 1 or 2 years, the resumes will still be relevant, but eventually they have to be replaced.
Sure, sure. And of course, the last point was the level of proficiency, how it differs from context and industry wise. So thank you so much
Right.
for bringing that up. My next question, Vishal, is how can companies ensure the skills assessment truly reflect real world capability and not just the performance?
Another interesting question. Uh, I can put this into three parts. One is use simulations. Don't just quiz knowledge. So assessments based on MCQs, for example. Okay. Even if a person scoring 100 out of 100 in a MCQ based question, for example, can I compare that particular candidate with someone who shows their capabilities into in actual production level um, context, right? So there's a difference over there. When you talk about production, for example, or when you talk about real life situation, for example, there is a lot of ambiguity in the understanding of the requirements kind of thing. It's not a direct question that this is SQL, for example, and this is how you have to apply it kind of thing, right? Based on the volume of the production database, based on the time that you have for running those queries, for example, the use of the right SQL, for example, would differ, right?
Right.
So again, to stress on it, simulate work, don't quiz knowledge. So there are multiple platforms where you can do project-based assessments kind of thing rather than only assessments where lot more is checked than the only theoretical answers kind of thing, right? Second is assess in context. So as I gave an example of data analyst in my previous question, right? So
Hmm.
again, check for context, for example. So skill does not exist in vacuum. It exists with a particular context in mind. So when
Right.
you're assessing someone, for example, I think the assessment also should be in the actual context that the skill will be used. So you can call it a capability, you can call it a competency kind of thing, but yeah, the context is important. And second, validate against outcomes. So let's say you're using any tool, for example, even if it's assessment or any other tool, for example, after 6 months or after 12 months, how the employees that were hired giving this particular assessments are actually performing, right? What were the interview results after this particular assessment were taken, for example? So that outcomes also have to be measured to see the validity or the accuracy of the assessment that were taken in that particular flow. So I think these are the three principles that I can think about at this moment
Sure.
of time.
Sure. There is simulation, there is assessment, MCQs, and project-based assessment. The second part to it was, the context setting, the capability,
Right.
clarity on the capability. And last but not the least, validating those things against the outcome.
Exactly.
So
Well
thank
said.
you so much. My next question, Vishal, is you have been closely involved in the AI-driven ecosystem, AI-driven hiring ecosystems. What are the
Mhm.
most critical skills that will define tech over 3 to 5 years from now?
So Neha, if you had asked this question probably 2 to 3 months back, the answer would have been different. The answer, I think, every now and then will keep on changing with the advancements in AI.
Sure.
So I think the first thing is the AI fluency. Now, we don't expect everyone to build their own LLMs or fine tune the LLMs, for example, but every individual should have an understanding, be it technical role, non-technical role, on what are the capabilities of prompt engineering, for example, what are the limitations of prompt engineering. So kind of earlier we were talking about computer literacy, right? Everyone should be computer literate kind of thing. I think everyone should be AI literate, right? So understanding what AI can do kind of thing, right? Now, the second layer I can talk about is problem solving and systems thinking. Earlier, what used to happen is that most of the developers' time used to go in coding, right? Now, with Claude Code like tools, Claude Code, Codex, whatever you call it, right? The actual coding might be done by these tools, for example. So then, what can the developers do? The developers can then extend their particular roles and responsibilities towards the solution architecting, right? So the whole shift is that from people who are regular coders, for example, to um, to architecting solutions, right? So there is a right shift that you can talk about. Second, the developers have to start understanding the second order effects, right? Whatever I'm doing right now, how it is impacting the actual production kind of thing, right? So people have to start understanding that and operating ambiguity, because the easier part or the most time consuming part of coding has already been taken out of the developers' roles and responsibilities. So the developer, of course, can do a lot more than what he or she was doing before, right? So I think that is the second skill of complex problem solving and systems thinking. The second thing is communication, adaptability, and ethical judgment, right? Now, with AI and everything, of course, there is uh, a lot of think about ethical judgments, right? Whatever AI you're using, is it following the responsible AI principles kind of thing? So that is one thing. Uh, Convincing your business stakeholders, converting that particular technical knowledge or the AI capability to a non-technical business language, for example. So those skills will start getting important, right? And then adaptability. There are a lot of developers that did not trust AI, but eventually they have to adapt to AI and everything. So that is another critical skill that I think would be important.
Sure.
So yeah,
So then there is understanding of what AI can do. There is a problem solving attitude and there is ethical judgment. So it
that
brings the complete picture of how you can turn most critical and ambiguous situation into, handle those, with a lot of agility. So these things can definitely help here. Thank you so much.
right.
This brings us to the last question, Vishal, which is if you had to give one clear advice to companies building their hiring strategy, what should they stop doing and start doing to become truly skills driven?
Okay. So I think this particular answer is a combination of whatever I talked about in this last four questions.
Sure.
So first of all, stop hiring for the resume and start hiring for the skills. Uh, More specifically, I would say that stop looking at not don't stop looking at educational background or the last job roles kind of thing, but I would say that uh, give a particular weightage to that, of course. But more than that, the actual ability, the context in which the skills are being applied in the past, and whether that same context is going to help you in to fulfill the job in your current organization. So that is the thing that organizations have to think about, right? What organizations don't have is a skills architecture, which I mentioned in my, I think, first question, is a clear living map of what skills your business needs today and what you will need in the next 18 months or let's say 24 months kind of thing, right? And what proficiency levels against that particular skills that you will require. So what we call it is a skills architecture. So I think the first thing that the companies have to do is to build this particular skills architecture, because once this particular architecture is in place, I think the every decision, the business decision, whether it's internal mobility, whether it's hiring, or whether it's for any particular reason, upskilling, learning, and everything, that job becomes much more easier. So I think this is exactly what the organizations should start doing it. The main thing is the skills architecture. And I think there are a lot of organizations like iMocha that help you in building the skills architecture as well.
So
So I
thank you
think
so
that
much.
is what I can think about right now.
Absolutely, and beautifully summarized. Stop hiring for resumes, but hire for skills. Give weightage to education background, but also the skills and the capability that the person brings on the table.
Right.
Having a clear map of skill set that you need now, and of course, in the next 8 to 12 months, is also imperative. So this brings us to the end of this masterclass. Vishal, thank you so much for your time and your perspectives today have reinforced the fact that the future of hiring does not lies in resume, or the information that is provided. but it deeply lies in the understanding of skills, the potential of the person and the capability to, especially, deal with situations in this dynamic work
Right.
landscape. So thank you so much for beautifully sharing your thoughts today.
Thanks again, Neha, for this particular opportunity. And I would tell organizations that being skills first is not an easy job, but once you start with the journey, for example, it's a beautiful journey. So don't lose hope.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vishal.
Thanks a lot, Neha. Bye bye.